what are some of the headlines? Who are some of the players that you're looking at for the midweek portion, the first things first portion of what Florida State's doing this week?
I think for me, it's the ends. There's three of them that are coming in. Certainly, the guy that brings up the most attention is Jared Smith. He's top 40, top 50 type of national prospect. He's a guy they spent a lot of time, developing relationships with. He's really good with JP. He's really good with the staff. He knows what they do in development. Highlighted Jared Verse and the stuff they've already done with the defensive ends. And there's work to do since I think South Carolina likely holds an edge, but I think that's one that, man, if you could really hit it out of the park, that's one where it just jumps out to me. Another one is Nicholas Clayton. That's got a guy that's a 3-star defensive end, but I think he's going to be eventually bumped up to a 4-star. He's a guy that's picked up a lot of steam. There's a lot of different schools trying to get involved. He's always liked FSU. He's visited FSU in the spring before. Came in here. There's a high. I always say there's certain kids that covet FSU, and I think he's one of those kids. So you could certainly make a big splash with him. We know kind of where they sit with a guy like Zion Grady, who's a 4-star. I think they're in good position for. Javion Hill's another one that's committed to FSU that certainly other schools are trying to get. But I think if you can add a third or fourth in there with this class, whether Jared or him, it'd be a big deal. You also have Marion Dye that's also coming in. That's another talented 4-star defensive end that has picked up his communication a lot with FSU. You're dealing with a lot of competition. Certainly, Ohio State is very high, on his board. I know he likes Ohio State a lot, and there's other schools, but I think those are kind of a few that just jump out to me from that midweek.
How do you feel in general? This is like one of those other big picture questions because if defensive line is going to be one of the focuses of the midweek, how do you feel they're doing in this class relative to your expectations? Like, you're an analyst, you've seen Florida State operate at the top of the top and then
Yeah.
be lagging behind. Where do you think they are at defensive end, defensive line in general?
Yeah, I think defensive end, they're close to where my target date of what I wanted. Like I said, I think they're in a good position with Zion Grady. I think they're going to get Javion Hillson the stick. I think certainly Texas and UCF are teams that have pushed, but I think if you keep him and then you add Grady, and then you add one more guy, kind of the guys we're talking about. You also have Jalen Wiggins, who's going to visit. He's a local kid, defensive end. That I think if you could add just the third guy, I'm more concerned with the third guy right now than I am for the edge position than I am just the overall feeling of the position. I think defensive tackle for me is really the one that we don't know about because I think they are going to, very likely land a guy like Myron Charles who visits on that final weekend in the summer. I think that's a guy they land. But after that, who they land, and I think they do need two or three. So that's a place that I'd like to see more expanded board and expanded kind of excitement of hey, they're going to get more there. I think if they do that and they add a second guy, I'd feel good. Like for defensive end, I think you want to have three for defensive tackle. I think you definitely want to have two solid ones. So they do host some guys, but out of those two, for me, it'd be the tackle. I want to see a little bit more there. I like how things are trending with the linebacker position. I know that's one that always gets fans stirred up. I think you already have Ethan Pritchard. I think they're likely going to land Tavion Wallace. That's one that I feel good. And then if they can get a third one, that'll be a knock out of the park type of job by Randy. Certainly a massive turnaround based on what we've seen in the forward. But I think certainly with DB, Surtain's killing it. So I'm not really remotely concerned about that or the safety position. And then you get to kind of the wide receivers. We already discussed a lot of those guys. Um, I feel good about their chances of they're having a good shot with Dalen McCutcheon out of Texas. That's a guy that I feel like has been coveted. I think FSU, USC have kind of been the teams that I've heard the most, but I think FSU relationship wise is a little bit higher. And I think so they sit in a good spot there. And then the guys you just hosted this weekend, Malik Watkins, I think that one really depends for me is how hard they push. I think that really depend on that. And then Kaliq Lockett will be a tough one, but Kaliq is definitely saying all the right things to and I would say this, like this is the first time all weekend that when Kaliq visited that I got the sense from my FSU contacts like this is real. Like this is this could happen. So they feel like a realistic chance to pulling him off. So, and I think I like how the targets are matching up for FSU. It's a balance heavy board where there's a few in there. There's like two or three that you feel like, hey, FSU's probably leading for. And then you have a few in there that are right there 50-50 that they have a good shot with, but you don't know for sure. So I think everything else is measuring up. I just want to see more from that defensive tackle position where it's more than just one. I mean, one guy is really good, but I think they need multiple guys in there based on what they could lose the following year.
So I got to circle back on Lockett real quick, and then we'll get to a question about this upcoming weekend. I know we'll have more in-depth previews as we get closer, but I do want to, finish the picture for this week for everybody watching on the Monday Smash. Part of me wonders, Michael, is he just trying to drum up interest to make it more fun for himself to choose Texas, or is it real? And so you're telling me that Florida State doesn't believe it's the former. They think that maybe this thing could be for real. Like they might be making some inroads here.
There's some indications they got during that visit, whether it's been Friday, Saturday. There's something in there that they felt with people they trust that there's something real in there that, as Kaliq said, it's going to be really hard to tell this team no. And I think a lot of people will take that twofold, like, well, you're saying that, and then you can just pick Texas. But it's also like you could use it the other way, where it's like, I love you, Texas, but damn, I feel different when I'm here. So I think it's one where there's some seriousness. Like I said, guys, if I didn't hear that, I would have not have shared that, on the site where I felt like this is the first time I've heard that. So I think there's some real genuine movement. Well, will it be enough? That's tough. I mean, you're still dealing with an in-state kid, so for another state, so it's going to be tough. But at the same time, that raised my eyebrows when I heard that, and I didn't hear it from just one person. I heard it from like probably 3 or 4 different FSU contacts that I spoke with, Tom, throughout the weekend. That when you're hearing it enough, the validity of it certainly rises a lot more when you're hearing it consistently. And I'm not talking about people just from the FSU side. There's people in the Texas area that are close to him that kind of shared a similar sentiment that, hey, we know there's a lot of Texas buzz, but this could happen. These guys are a real threat. So certainly FSU is a team to definitely keep an eye on in this recruitment.